Okay, so in the next half hour I will present this collage-like lecture, and I will give many examples. I have about 200 slides, right? So buckle up. But there will be one point I want to make, which is that we are now living in a time in which our technologies are becoming so complex, omnipresent, and also autonomous that we start to relate to them as a nature of its own. I will now start my talk. So hello, I am Koert van Mensvoort. I am indeed an artist, I'm a scientist, I'm a designer, I'm also a philosopher, I'm a doctor, I'm a blogger, so I guess in the end I am a bit of an amateur. Definitely as an artist I'm very much of an amateur. This is one of my paintings. I tried to make this natural painting, but then my Hummer was parked in the middle of the painting. As an artist, I work in all media. This is a project I did some years ago. I made this fountain. Can we get some sound, guys? And there are many fountains in Dubai, but this one is very special because it's connected to real-time currency rates of the yen, the euro, and the dollar. And here you see some stock traders looking at their fountain, which really presents how the finance is doing. Every 5 seconds, the fountain connects to the internet and takes the latest currency rates from the internet, which then through an embedded system are presented on the fountains. My vision for Dubai would be that in the end all these fountains here in Dubai also would have some kind of information in it, right? Instead of just being decorative. And here you see, well, this video was made for Japanese television. People had to guess what this fountain did. In the end, they could not guess it. I explain it in Japanese here, but we don't speak Japanese, so we have to move on. Of course, you could also do this with plants, like maybe for Dubai, we have these intelligent watering systems. If you connect them to the internet, you could make a data plant. So an embedded system, and then you grow your plants according to your data. Or even maybe one step further would be something like this. A data climate. I don't know how technical you folks are. I know this would still be quite difficult to implement. But you can envision it, you know? You can think about it. And that's what I do a lot as a designer. I speculate. I try to envision things. This is a product I made for the Coca-Cola company, Organic Coke. Will be on the market very soon. And actually I made a whole supermarket of products that might be on the market within the next 10 years. This is the Nano supermarket. And it's really, it is an exhibition disguised as a supermarket that presents these future visions and future technologies. So here you see programmable wine in the microwave. You make your own wine. Of course, the smartwatches, jackets that change the color, wall smart paint. I will talk more about that later. It's the Nano supermarket. It's a supermarket with nanotechnology products that might hit the shelves within the next 10 years. And this is our logo. We had different versions. Actually, this was the cheap version. But in the end, I decided to go for this black and white style because this supermarket is really a supermarket noir. We're not only presenting the beautiful, innovative product visions, but also maybe the darker, uncanny products. So both dreams and nightmares. And it's actually moving around. I was inspired by mobile supermarkets that used to drive around in my own country. Of course, it's too retro, so you combine it with something futuristic, and then you have your nano supermarket. And this is now traveling all over the world, presenting these fictional nanotechnology products. So what are some of the products? Well, the most popular product is the Wall Smart Interactive Paint. You put it on the wall only once, and then you can change the color of your wall as many times as you like with your smartphone. It uses magnetic nanorods that bend the light. Another product is the Google Nose. We all know the Google Glass, but how about the Google Nose? Because this digital world, it's extending our senses. But then some senses, like this very intimate sense of smell, It has no position at all in the digital world. So with the Google Nose, we reintroduce it, and it allows you to smell just as well as a police dog. Another product, which I think is quite exciting, but also a bit uncanny, is the energy belt. Obesity is a big problem. Body fat is always seen as a liability. But what if you could take this energy from your belly fat and use it to charge your own cell phone from your own belly fat? Who would buy this? Yeah, there are quite so many people who would buy this. Because indeed, we are all walking around with these mobile devices and they always have an empty battery. So what if we could charge it with our own bodily energy? Why not? Maybe you could also use it to charge your Twitter implant. The Twitter implant is a tiny implant. It's implanted in your jaw. And then it starts to tweet everything that happens inside your body. It's just being twittered. So if I run a lot and I have a healthy lifestyle, it's being twittered, and everyone knows this. But of course, yeah, if I smoke a cigarette, it's also being twittered. And that's maybe less, well, relevant. I get it for free with my health insurance company. They provide me the Twitter implant for free. Who would buy this? No one, no, indeed. So apparently this Twitter implant, it's going too far. It's, you know, one step too far. But then again, we are now living in this time that we are sharing so much data about us. And apparently the Twitter implant is going too far, but where do you stop exactly? I think that's very interesting. So I try to explore that. This is a bit of a dystopian product. Of course, we also have beautiful, wonderful products in our nano supermarket, like this algae lamp. It uses algae as an alternative solar panel. And that's more biotechnology. And another product in that realm is the Rayfish genetically modified stingray leather shoe. And for this we also made a commercial, which I want to show you now. So the assumption is that there's this company, rayfish.com, and you can actually go to the website and experience everything, and they cracked the DNA of stingrays. They can put any pattern they like on the skin of the stingray, and then on their website, rayfish.com, you can design your own fish, which then, after a good life in the fish farm, will be turned into your own bio-customized shoe. The products I'm showing, they are fictional, you know, they're speculative. They're based on technology today and where it might go tomorrow. However, the discussion that we are having around it, that's 100% fact. And this, I think, it's quite important, this discussion about new technologies. Because every human being on the planet nowadays has to cope with new technologies, right? Everyone. But we know so little about what technology is and how it's introduced into our life. And if we want to understand that, I think we have to begin at the beginning. And this is really then the beginning of the planet. It is now about 4.5 billion years ago since our planet came into existence. And at first it was just this lonely rock floating in space. It had a biosphere, or it had a geosphere, but it took about 3 billion years before a biosphere evolved on planet Earth. And then 1 billion years later, mankind arrived. So we are just here. But with our human presence and technology, we are causing the rise of this new sphere on Earth. You could call it a technosphere. And just like the biosphere evolved upon and interacts with the geosphere, also this technosphere evolved upon and interacts with the biosphere. So that's a very simple message. Evolution goes on. And we all know this story about Darwin and evolution, but has it really landed in our culture? When we think of nature, we still feel like we are these human beings pushed out of the paradise, and since then we are spoiling everything a little bit. Whereas the truth is, of course, that we are all born in a world that has been designed already, entirely. Look around you in the room you are in now. No, look around you in the city you are in now. And try to find the most natural thing in this room or city. The most natural thing. Indeed, it is you. All the other stuff around us we entirely designed and made. And we're now arrived in this situation in which young children, they know more birds, they know more logos and brands than birds or tree species. And surely, yeah, maybe they know some tree species, like this interesting, peculiar tree species we have here in Dubai. But it's sort of a symbol about that we transformed our original natural environment into a world of design. However, at the same time, also our technological world becomes so complex and uncontrollable that it has its own dynamics, this maybe even natural dynamics. So where is this going? You know, and what will we leave for the future? And what will our own future be? Well, don't worry, this is a photo montage. There's not really a lady walking around with these kind of high heels. But I think as an image, it's also a strong metaphor of this time, because we are now living in a world in which the born and the made, they are fusing. Born and made things, they are blending. And as a result, also our notions of nature and culture, they seem to be fusing or blending. And I actually want to argue that they are shifting. And allow me to elaborate on this with a very simple graph that I'm sure everyone can understand. If I put on one axis, born versus made, and on the other axis I put autonomous versus controlled, then I've now created 4 quadrants, and I can put all kinds of things in there. So in the born controlled quadrant, I could put things like a rainbow tulip, a bonsai tree, a genetically modified banana or chicken. These are all natural phenomena that we control almost entirely. They have become sort of a design. Then again, at the born beyond control quadrant, there are still many things we don't control. Viruses, volcanoes, lightning, or the sun. We don't have any control over the sun. It's so much bigger than us. Then on the made and controlled part, I can put things like a car, a telephone, a robot dog, or a light bulb. It's not too interesting. But on the made beyond control part, there things become fascinating. Traffic jams, digital networks, computer viruses, cities, and the financial system. You know, we made it. We made the financial system. But who is controlling it nowadays? So my point here is that traditionally maybe we think of nature as everything born. However, that's shifting to a notion of nature as everything that is growing beyond control. And this is a mind shift. You know, this is a new way of looking, because traditionally we think of nature and technology as opposites, like black and white. But here we learn that our technologies also can grow beyond our control, and we have this next nature emerging, a nature caused by people. So it's a very simple message again. It's just nature changes along with us. But it is a mind shift. It is a bit of a mind shift. And allow me to give you some examples from my own life where I think, wow, is this the new way of looking? What's happening here? So the first one is this. These are all the razors I used throughout my life. So I started when I was 17 with this simple stick with 2 blades. And this morning I shaved myself with a 6-bladed monster that has a battery, a LED. It looks a bit like a vacuum cleaner. And I look at it and I wonder, is this evolution? Is this an evolutionary development? Often people say no, because we made it. Well, okay, Ben, but maybe then is this an image of the fact that we as humans are now co-evolving with our technology? Like the bees and the flowers, co-evolved. The bees, they take the nectar from the flowers, but they also spread their pollen and help the flowers propagate. So we make and use technology, but we also help technology propagate. And we're co-evolving with it. I read in the newspaper that biodiversity is decreasing, but then I walk into a supermarket and I see an enormous increasing of biodiversity. Or perhaps technodiversity would be a better term for this. But how does the decreasing biodiversity on our planet relate to the increasing technodiversity? There are now more patents filed than there are known species on Earth. How do we balance them? Then the financial system again. Nowadays, over 80% of all stock trading is done by computers. Is it time that we start to look at the financial system as an ecology in its own right? And if we do, then maybe what can engineers still learn from farmers who have extensive experience of dealing with ecologies, like weather, climate? You do your thing, you farm, but you cannot control everything. What is the new method? How will we build? Will we grow cities? I think it will not look like this, but we can look into the past to look for methods. Like this is a root bridge from India. I think it's very inspiring how people connect different routes on two sides of the river, and then over time you grow a bridge. It's not like blueprint, construction, finished. No, it's growing the structure. So that's a different kind of method. And how do we guide the growth of these kind of systems? How do we guide the growth of this system? And no, this is not some star nebula somewhere far, far away, much closer than you think. This is a map of the internet. Every device plotted as a dot, and all the connections between the devices plotted as lines, and then you get this structure, which I think it's beautiful. It also looks like a natural structure almost. But it is, of course, made by us, although we haven't really designed it. It's sort of emerged. And we are swimming in it, you know, it's all around us. So it's like the fish who don't know it's wet. We are dwelling in our technologies. So we all have to cope with these new technologies, and I want to finish with getting a bit of grip on how technology is actually introduced into our life and how we start to live with it. And I will do this by presenting a pyramid, the pyramid of technology. This pyramid is inspired on a very famous pyramid, the Maslow pyramid. In 1943, Abraham Maslow presented his hierarchy of human needs, basically plotting different human needs in different layers. So physical needs first, then safety, security, social, and on top, self-realization. And every lower layer had to be fulfilled before you could rise on a higher level. So maybe a schizophrenic tramp is at the bottom of physical needs. Most of us, we're somewhere in the middle, and the nurse that helps the tramp is maybe a little bit higher. So that's a known pyramid. But now, if we would do something similar for technology, so we try to plot all the different levels at which technology can function in our lives. So what would be the lowest level? Well, I think it has to be the envisioned level. Every new technology starts with an idea in the human brain. There has to be an idea before we can make something. So for instance, the quantum computer, it's envisioned. Scientists are working on it. They don't have really strong prototypes yet, but they're working on it. And maybe it will never arrive in our life. Like, look at the time machine. The time machine is a technology that has been envisioned already for centuries. But yeah, I have not yet seen a working prototype. Then again, if you look at satellites, they have been envisioned, communication satellites were envisioned by Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer. And about a decade later, the first one was launched into orbit, lifting effectively this technology to the second level, the operational level. At the operational level, a working prototype exists. Another example of a technology that is today at an operational level would be lab-grown meat. 1.5 years ago, the first lab-grown hamburger was presented to the world, growing meat outside the animal. It cost, I think, so much money, a million, it cost $1 million, and it's so expensive still, but it is a prototype. But it's not applied yet. You cannot buy it in a shop, because that's the next level at which a technology can operate. It becomes available and affordable. So think solar panels. You can buy them, but they also compete with other types of energy. Think nuclear energy, that's also applied and available. And they are sort of, you see that different technologies, they are struggling also, pushing towards the top. It's very networked. The next level for technology is to be accepted. So whereas nuclear energy has great difficulty of becoming really embraced, something like a smartphone is accepted in less than 10 years, you know. It's just interesting to imagine that 20 years ago, none of us had a mobile phone. So is there anyone in the room here who does not own a smartphone? No, so we all have it. And about 10 years ago, I bought my first phone, and I thought, okay, I buy one, because everyone has one, so I buy one too. Whatever. But now, when I leave my house without my phone, ooh, I feel like missing a limb. You know, you almost feel naked, and you quickly run back to your house to get your mobile phone, to be this whole human being again. And it's not part of your body, that's not the point. It's not grown into your body or whatever, but it is part of your identity and lifestyle. It's very intimate. And this happened in 10 years. It became accepted. It's even, you would say, a smartphone nowadays, it's pretty vital. These are some other examples of accepted technologies: cars, flat screen televisions, GPS systems. And personally, I'm already this kind of guy. I cannot navigate without GPS anymore. You know, for me, this is vital. I don't know how to read a map. I'm always searching for the blue dot on the map. Where am I? GPS is, for many people already, also vital. That means hard to live without. Vital technologies are the technologies that if you would remove them from your life, you have a crisis. You don't know what you should do anymore. And examples here are, well, maybe sewage systems or watering systems, you know. Just imagine that we would remove, with a magical laser beam, all sewage and watering systems from Dubai, just like that, you know. Big crisis. It's pretty vital. And also a more recent example is, of course, the internet. And in the future, maybe also the Internet of Things is becoming this vital technology. And you could already think like, would I rather live without sewage or without internet? I don't know, I leave that for you to decide. But they are all vital. And some technologies, when they become really successful, then they actually move on to the next level, which is that they become invisible. Invisible technologies are no longer experienced as technology, and that's very, very powerful. An example here is the alphabet. You know, the alphabet is really an ancient information technology that helped us to make our voices and thoughts permanent in the outer space. Not only books, magazines, signage, billboards, you know, even graffiti. It all uses the alphabet. And as a child, you have to invest a lot of time in mastering the alphabet, but then once you can do it, you immediately forget about it. It's invisible as a technology, it just works. Also, timekeeping is another example, which allowed us to make meetings with more precision than the natural units of the day, the month, and the year. It's a technology, but we don't think about it as technology, and that's very powerful. Okay, then on to the top. What's the ultimate level that a technology can achieve? I think at the summit, and it's rarely obtained, I have to say, technologies become entirely naturalized. They become part of our human nature. And naturalized technologies, yeah, they are just part of us. We co-evolve with them. So think of clothing, the fact that human beings, that we wear clothes, it's natural to us. Or agriculture. Well, today when we think of agriculture, we think, yeah, of course, we do it. People do it. It's natural. But there has been this moment in human history, about 10,000 years, that agriculture was an invention. You know, it was a new idea to plant crops, wait for them to grow, and then harvest them. No more hunting and gathering on the savannah. New technology, which at the time was also a radical intervention with the natural environment. And an even more ancient technology, which is naturalized today entirely, would be, I think, cooking. I don't mean the barbecue, but it's about 200,000 years ago, we don't know even exactly when, that some genius ancestor arrived at the idea that we could cook our food before we would eat it. You know, that's basically a matter of extending your stomach in the outer world, pre-digesting your food before you would eat it, and that this allows you to intake more calories in less time, grow bigger brains, socialize more, and in fact become modern human beings. So if we look at this whole pyramid, at this whole plotted pyramid, then we realize that new technologies, they always arrive as something artificial, something alien, something new. Then when we apply them and embrace them, they become more familiar. At a certain moment, they're so accepted, they feel like this second nature to us. And the ultimate level that you can reach is that the technology in fact becomes part of human nature, you know, indistinguishable from nature. Where on this pyramid am I operating with my practice? Where do I work? And who do I know who works at another level? Because people work at different levels. And what strikes me is that most of the people who call themselves technology professionals today, they often work at these lower levels, you know, because that's what we think of when we talk about technology. Many people have this informal definition of technology as technology is anything that was invented after I was born. Or even worse, technology is anything that doesn't quite work yet. And this is limiting us, that we are only focusing on this partial story of technology and not the whole thing. Because as a result, we also settle for partial solutions. We have beautiful dreams, you know. People dream of things like telepathy, you know. And then you settle with a mobile phone, with an empty battery, which is basically this half-baked notion of telepathy. Or we dream of being able to fly like a bird. Many people have this dream to be able to fly like a bird, and then we end up on a crowded airport. But if we would push our dreams to the limit, we could do so much better, you know? We can do so much better. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult. It's a long perspective, but at least then we know where we will be going, which is to naturalize our technologies. It will not be easy, but we can be sure of one thing, that no longer we have to long for going back to nature, rather we can try to push forward to nature. And I want to leave you again with this image of these planets, because it's time that we accept that we created this technosphere. It's built on the biosphere, and we have to embrace its complexity. It's bigger than us. We cannot entirely control it, but maybe we can try to guide its growth. Maybe we can still learn from the biosphere and our relationship with the biosphere to also better cope with this technosphere. Because it's also our job description to balance the two, you know. Because in the end, these are not three spheres, but it's all happening in one sphere, which happens to be our planet. Thank you for your attention.
Fascinating insights. I think all of us, retail is in the blood here in Dubai. We'd love to visit your nano supermarket sometime.
Yes.
Listen, I've got loads of questions, but I'm sure others have as well. Yes, please, sir. You were bold. So you get to first dibs at a question. We've got a microphone, sir, coming to you right now. Can we get a microphone to the gentleman right here on the front row? Thank you very much.
fascinating it was.
Thank you.
There's an old saying we all grew up with, which says, necessity is the mother of all inventions. This pyramid that you showed tends to tell me that it takes a long time, millions of years, thousands of years to make agriculture natural. So what about the people who are envisioning things today? What it will mean for them is millions of years to get to realization. So two questions there. There's an old thought which says all inventions came by because people needed them.
Okay, take that point and come back on it. Thank you, sir.
Indeed, necessity is the mother of all inventions. That's a very famous quote. However, I also think a dream is maybe even a bigger mother, or another mother or father, because both necessity and dream, I think they together bring us to the technological story and how we develop technology not only today but also in the past and also in the future. There have been many human dreams that seemed impossible to implement for a very long time. Think of being able to fly, and then at a certain moment it worked. And I want to also challenge you to dream harder and to dream bigger and to push your dreams into reality. That also relates to the second question, if I may. Because indeed, some of the visions that I share, they're very long term. And then you could say, well, okay, I'm not interested because it's not practical, I cannot do it today. However, still, I think it might help you, because if you know where you want to be going, then at least you know what small step you can make today. I think we are making many steps today which are considered innovation, but often it's not even related to a dream, it's not even related to a necessity, it's just a technology push. So to be able to plot where you want to go with your technology and then make a small step today, I think that's a great contribution for all of us to make.
Great question. Thank you very much indeed. We have another one. Who's got them? Yes, please, sir. Gentleman in the light-colored jacket.
Thank you. In this fast-changing world, what habits, personal as well as organizational habits, do we need to change to be able to survive and hopefully thrive?
What habits do we change? Organizational habits to thrive better. I would say the big thing is that if we look at innovation within larger companies, then of course there are different needs. We always talk about these needs of customers, but let's face it, the company also has certain needs. The company is like you could say an organism in itself, and it wants to thrive as well. It wants to evolve, it wants to live and grow, and we should consider that. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because companies, they keep us healthy, they give us entertainment, they give us food, they give us a lot. But the companies sometimes also have their own necessity simply to grow and thrive, and that's not always entirely facilitating the human potential. So I think what we should do is push for the human dream and the human need. Does a new innovation relate to my human needs? Does it relate to my bodily senses? How does it relate to my intuitions? How does it relate to humanity as a whole? How does it relate to dreams that I might have of myself? So push the human needs. I think that will in the end also be good for the company, and the company will thrive as well.
Thanks very much indeed. We'll take one final question for Koert. 3, 2, 1. I get the final question. No, you get the final question, sir. There's a gentleman in the dark jacket, about midway through. There we go. Just raise your hand, sir, then people can see you.
It was a great presentation. Thanks for sharing your insights about how technology matures. But I just want to know your perspective on how standards correlate or interoperate with the maturity of technology. Because standards have to evolve along the same lines. So I just wanted to get your perspective on it.
Yes. So how to cope with standards that are already there. I think this is also a great question and an important question. Just to give an example, today we're still typing on a keyboard that has been designed so that the hammers in the typewriter will not hit each other. So that's a standard, right? That's what you mean with different standards. We have many standards, and some of these standards have been envisioned at a certain moment when they made sense, like with the typewriter. But then at a certain moment, it doesn't make sense anymore. But it has evolved, it's thriving, it's big, and it's almost like something that's there and you cannot get rid of. It's the same thing that we still have parts of our human body, like I still have a part of a tail from when I was, well, a long time ago. It's a standard that's still in my body, but it doesn't make sense anymore. Sometimes you cannot go around standards. They're just there, they're too powerful. But if you want to do something else, it has to be better, it has to improve. So if you would look at the pyramid and you see different standards, maybe also competing. So yeah, it's a mixed answer. Sometimes you just have to cope with it for now. And sometimes you have to push for a different standard because you know that this standard is not bringing us further. And then if you can make the leap with another standard, you should go for that one.
My last question is this. Earlier, you and I were chatting. You said Dubai can be like Venice. Give us the 60-second version of that.
Well, I tell this to many people. I'm from Europe, you know, and often I say like, Venice is the Dubai of the 13th century. Because there was this strange thing in Venice going on then. There was a lot of power and money there, and people made a decision, they had a vision, and they built this city, which at that time was for others maybe quite crazy. And that's also how people in the world now look at Dubai, like, oh man, it all has happened in less than a century here. It's so crazy. But in the long run, it could be Venice. I think we still have some detailing to do, but it could be the Venice of the 21st century. So,
Koert, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed for being in Dubai to share them with us today.
Great.
Thanks very much indeed, Koert.